2022 Bassmaster Classic. We gathered all of our fishermen in Memphis, Tennessee for our flight to the Mystery Lake. And boy, let me tell you one thing, it was one more big, continuous guessing game as to where we were headed. Bobby Murray, you won the Classic last year. Let me ask you this question. You got it all figured out where we're headed this year?
I sure don't. I wish I knew.
You really do know, don't you?
Well, I've got my ideas, but I don't really know.
Where do you think we might be headed?
Oh, we might be going to the northeast or the southwest. That's as close as I got.
That covers half of America. Stan Sloan's over here from Nashville. Where do you think we're going, Stan?
Far west.
Where do you think far? How far west?
Too far.
Well, that's some real good fishing, you know, right close by here.
I'd rather stay close by.
All right. Glenn Wells, where do you think we're headed?
Mexico.
Mexico. John Powell?
I think we're going to Amstead.
Amstead. Where is Amstead?
That's Del Rio, Texas.
How you think?
Beaver Lake.
Beaver Lake. Where are you from, by the way?
Beaver Lake.
All right. You know, when you take the top 24 fishermen from 6 qualifying tournaments across the country, they certainly represent the toughest and the strongest of any 24 fishermen you might imagine. But I'll tell you one thing, the nerves were just about like a bucket of spaghetti. These guys were nervous because they had no idea where they were headed. And they, of course, had guessed everywhere in the world, and security had to be tight to keep them from knowing. We even took Forrest Wood, the manufacturer of the Great Ranger boat, and also Blake Honeycutt, who designed and manufactured the trailer, and put these men in jail. And here we were releasing them for the first time in 3 days so they could enter the airplane and head for the Mystery Lake. And as I say, nerves were on the ragged edge, and these boys were wondering just what type water and where they might be headed. Here we are with the second annual Bassmaster Classic. Today we're headed for a destination I know all of you have been wondering about, but not known. This tournament, unlike last year, is the first time that not one single solitary soul has guessed the location. Now, the men I'm looking at here, plus one or two I saw in the front of the cabin, actually drove by the lake or flew over the lake, coming to Memphis for the rendezvous. Now, folks, we're headed north, actually northeast of Memphis. You can almost hear the guitars and the cowboys singing because we're headed for Nashville, Tennessee. Now, the lake that you're probably wondering about, there are several good lakes, and I know you want to know that Old Hickory is just north of town, but we're not going there. We're going to Percy Priest. All of the boats, 28 boats, Ranger boats, all loaded down, snuck through Memphis 2 nights ago at 12:45 and snuck into Nashville in a great big warehouse. They went by Stan Sloan's house. His lights were out, so we knew he was asleep. Butler boat's another pretty bass, and it looks like, as I suspected, he's using that little chartreuse pokey bug that he developed some years ago. It's now become famous. Don Butler, on the other hand, came up with over 14 pounds of bass, and to me, it looks like we might have our man. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you have been following the Bass Angler Sportsman Society's tournament trail for the last 2 years. And last year, our first classic was won in Las Vegas, Nevada, on Lake Mead by a real fine fisherman, Bobby Murray. I'm going to ask him to bring the champion's trophy out here that will be presented to the man that won, Bobby Murray. Let's give Bobby a nice hand. Bobby, you remember the thrill last year, don't you, buddy?
The biggest thrill of my life. This is what it's all about, and I'm sure, you know, it's a great honor just to be one of the 24, but to win something like this is just a dream of a lifetime.
The man that won this tournament today, the 1972 Bassmasters Classic, was a man that stood behind me when I didn't have a friend in the world that thought I could pull this society together back in 1967. When we started the organization, it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma on a cold day. he said, I believe it'll work, and he joined that same day and was the first member of the Bass Angler Sportsman Society. I think it's very fitting that he should win this classic, most prestigious of all fishing tournaments. It's a pleasure to call him out here now to accept this trophy and this check for $10,000 cash. It goes to a man who deserves it beyond any stretch of your imagination. Don Butler of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Don, tell us very briefly the pattern. I know we don't have much time here, but tell these folks that are here exactly what you caught the fish on and the depth of the water.
Ray, I don't think there really was that much of a pattern. There was a concentration of fish in the back of the creek. I think they call it Faint Marina, the little neck that it's in. And we went to the back end of it, and there was a lot of fish in there. They weren't difficult to catch. They were hitting the small spinner baits. And chartreuse seemed to work the best. We caught our first fish on that, and well, naturally we stayed with it. And the fish didn't run as large today, and we didn't get them as quickly, but we stayed in there all day long and got 8, and then came out to 2 other little spots and got the other 2. So the area had some big fish in it that we left there, so I think if you're planning a fishing trip, that'd be a good place to consider.
Well, Don, one other thing I'd like to ask you, I know this is quite a thrill. You fish these tournaments, and perhaps you fish as many or more than anyone else. Did you ever think when you got on that plane in Memphis that, first of all, that you'd be going to, of all places, Nashville, Tennessee, and Percy Priest, but did you have any feelings that you might win this tournament?
I never entertained the thought for one moment.
Don, your little wife, Lucia, had been nervous to waiting on the bank all day for you, and she knew you wouldn't leave by about a pound and just a few ounces. And I asked her, I said, if Don wins, I said, how you plan on spending his money? And she said she would sure hope that she could talk you into taking her to Hawaii for y'all's 20th anniversary. What do you think about that?
That would have been 2 years ago.